And we're continuing with the 12th chapter of Dragons in the Waters by Madeleine, which is called The Return of the Phair. It was a blunder in stubbornness and sense of smell and possibly pheromones which guided Simon until he broke out of the underbrush and into the clearing. The jungle closed quickly over his tracks. The fire was there, no more than smoldering ashes. That was all. No cannon talus. No beast crouched to spring, ruby eyes gleaming. Simon's heart began to pound again. Could this be someone else's clearing? No. This was the branch from which the puma, or whatever it was, had prepared to attack. This was the small pile of green wood and leaf mold he had collected for the fire. There were the coconut husks. These were the beds of grass and fern which they had made, cannon talus still bearing the imprint of his body. And there was the palm leaf hat Simon had woven for the priest. For a moment, Simon had a horrible vision of wildcat, lion, leopard, snake, scorpion, vulture, all feasting on the ample body of the priest. But something would have been left. White clerical collar, silver cufflinks, belt, or buttons. There would at least have been a button. He scrabbled about on the ground. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He sat back on his heels in perplexity. What to do? Then he stiffened. In the distance he heard a motor, completely incongruous amid the jungle sounds. But it was approaching, and it came from above. Leaf and vine had quickly closed over the tearing by Gutierrez's helicopter. The smoke signal, which might once have penetrated the green, was dead ash. If this was a helicopter sent out by Hurtado, there would be nothing to see. The sound came closer, high above his head, then lower, lower. He began to tremble. Only Gutierrez or one of his men would know how to get here without a signal from the ground and a landing strip. The noise of the rotors was deafening. Monkeys screeched, birds flew in the air. Then there was a sound of ripping and the helicopter dropped through the vines. The blades quivered to a stop. Simon pressed back into the surrounding tangle of jungle, but there was no point in running away. This time there was to be no escape. He had abandoned cannon talus, and anything that happened to him now was his own fault. He waited. Gutierrez climbed out of the machine. He was followed by a soldier with a rifle who had thrown Simon into the hearse. He was followed by the soldier with the rifle who had thrown Simon into the hearse, and the priest into the copter. Simon did not move. He would have welcomed boar or wildcat. "Where is he?" Gutierrez demanded. "The Englishman!" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know?" "I don't know," Simon repeated. Gutierrez grabbed him by the arm. Simon tried to jerk away, but he could not. The soldier kicked him in the belly. "Where is he?" The wind was knocked out of Simon. He gasped like a fish out of water. He saw the boot raised to kick again. He closed his eyes. When Hurtado reached the dock at Port of Dragons, a message was waiting for him. A man who seemingly had been asleep all day in his hammock had received a message from the Quistano village. The English priest had been found, and the boy was not with him. Vermeer and Hurtado were closeted in the captain's quarters. "This is serious," Hurtado said. "You actually told Gutierrez that smoke was seen in the jungle?" "I did." "Vermeer, I do not understand you." Vermeer's smile had a slightly fixed look. "I did not forget what you said. It was the only way I could think of to force Gutierrez's hand." Hurtado wiped the back of his fist across his sharp blue jaw. "Gutierrez left the Orion, went to the police barracks, and got in a small police car, and took off. One of his subordinates reports that Gutierrez was called to meet someone at the airport." "Have you called the airport?" "Gutierrez did in fact go there. He stopped only long enough to collect one of the soldiers who hangs about the place and preempt a helicopter." "Are you having him followed?" "Vermeer, I am only a policeman. He had a good start on us. I have 3 helicopters out, but I cannot cover the entire jungle. If Gutierrez has gone back to his mother's village, there will be no tracing him." Vermeer asked. "Alejandro, what else is on your mind?" "Tom Tallis has been found. He has a badly injured leg where he was gored by a wild boar." "And the boy?" "We don't know where the boy is." "But why?" Hurtado told him. "Tallis is with the Quistanos. Yes, his leg is evidently in bad shape." "But what about Simon?" "The Quistano party has gone back into the jungle to look for him. He evidently ran in terror. He will have left traces, but they must find him quickly. There are dangers in the jungle." Vermeer said, Alejandro, you have to get a hold of Gutierrez. Why is Gutierrez so important at this moment? I have a hunch that he has something to do with the kidnapping, and that he and the murderer are, what do you say, in cahoots, Hurtado said. An American idiom. It is possible, but why do you say the murderer that way? I am not at all convinced that you have arrested the right man. Hurtado's dark eyes sparkled. As you tried to trap Gutierrez, so have I tried to trap the murderer. Jan has everything against him, but I am convinced of his innocence. At Dragon Lake, Miss Leonis and Canon Tallis tried to hide their anxiety about Simon. Tallis lay on a chaise lounge made of young trees and vines in the same way as Miss Leonis's chair. It had been placed on the porch of Umar Zanai's dwelling. The crude couch was amazingly gentle to his tired and aching body. His leg wound had been cleaned and dressed, and he had quickly withdrawn his first request to be taken immediately to the hospital. The agonizing pain was gone, and if he did not attempt to move, he was quite comfortable. The hectic flush had left his face. Miss Leonis's chair had been placed so they could talk easily. The life of the village flowed about them like a cool stream. Birds sang. On the porch of one of the caring places, they could see a young Quistano male in a bright belted tunic, helping a little boy to walk. At the far end of the porch, a young Quistano woman, in softly patterned flowing robe, tended an old man. I have muscles I even knew existed, Tallis said. Why didn't they put me in one of their helicopters? Oh, why didn't they put me in one of their hospitals? Caring places, she corrected. You have a wound, but it's not that serious, now that it's been cleaned and the infection controlled. Umar Zanai says that you were absolutely right not to touch the water in the stream. It's full of lethal amoeba. Whatever the Cristanos used on me, I cannot tell you how much better I feel. She smiled. They have ministered to me too. They have ointments and powders which have been used by them as far back as memory goes. I would guess that what they put on your wound must be some equivalent of an antibiotic. After all, penicillin comes from bread mold. It was like a dream, he said, smiling. There I was, my leg being cleaned and dressed by a gorgeous young creature who told me that she had her M.D. from the university in Caracas. Quentin Phair would be pleased. Yes, I think he would. I hope that Nini Ann would be pleased, too. He changed the subject. I noticed that the young man who rescued me carried bows and arrows, or spears, not firearms. The Umara and Umar Zanai do not permit firearms, and those who wish to use them leave the tribe. The Umara and the old chieftain, they rule together? I believe the Umara carries the ultimate authority. They are strange and fascinating people, and I hope that I am not putting too much trust in them when I expect them to find Simon. They found me. But this is not the first time in his journey that Simon has come close to death. It would seem to me, Canon Tallis said, that Simon has been saved for a purpose. And if he has been saved for a purpose, he will be all right now. He should not have run away from you. I ordered him to. But you were wounded and helpless. He couldn't have helped. What use two of us dying? And your lad is no coward. He was extraordinarily brave and resourceful about the boar. She shook her head slowly. He shouldn't have run, Canon Tallis said gently. Miss Leonis, all we must concentrate on now is having Simon found and brought here to us. He will try to get back to the clearing. Once he comes to himself, he will know he shouldn't have run, and he will try to get back. The Cristanos have returned to the clearing, and they will ray out from there. They will be able to follow his tracks no matter how quickly the jungle covers them for untrained eyes. It will be night in a few hours, Tallis corrected her. It will not be night for a few hours. We will pray that during that time Simon will be found. She sighed. Sometimes I think I am prayed out. I doubt that. She looked at him, at his bald head, his warm dark eyes, at the lines of pain in his face, pain which did not come only from his injury. I have learned that is an answer to prayer, and I have come to accept a great many no's. I cannot accept a no about Simon. You will accept what you have to, the priest said quietly. Meanwhile, you must hope. Simon is to be saved for a purpose. That is the best help you can give those who are looking for Simon. Prayers of hope. Yes, she shut her eyes. For a long time, the two of them, the middle-aged priest and the old woman, remained in silence. The sounds of the village mingled gently with their quiet. From the lake came splashing and the laughter of children. From somewhere behind them came a woman's voice raised in song almost as clear and high as a bird's, and her song was joined by bird song. The breeze lifted and moved through the trees with a sound like rain. After what seemed like an eternity, Miss Leonis opened her eyes. Canon Tallis was looking at her, his dark eyes compassionate. She asked him, "Do you know who murdered the man who called himself Forsyth Phair?" "Yes, I think I do." "It was not Yan?" "No, not Yan." And we will pause there.